President Joe Biden is now planning to travel to Saudi Arabia next month, and it is not going over well in certain quarters, certain very understandable quarters, including based on the reaction that we see from the former fiancée of slain journalist Jamal Khashoggi. She is not happy with the president choosing to dignify and elevate Mohammed bin Salman in this way by traveling to Saudi Arabia as if they had not done these horrible things. She urged Biden to, quote, uphold your vow to bring all the perpetrators of this brutal crime to justice. Khashoggi, if you are not familiar with the story, disappeared in October 2018, and all the evidence seems to point to this being a plot from the very top of the Saudi Arabian government to murder him. Now that said, she had more to say. Take a look at this video.
You must uphold your vow to bring all the perpetrators of this brutal crime to justice. But as disappointing as this is, if you have to put oil over the principles and expediency over values, can you at least ask, where is Jamal's body? Doesn't he deserve a proper burial?
And that just breaks your heart. Like it's been 4 years, and in certain ways there's been, I'm sure for her, no closure. The remains were never found, and to now see the president of the United States apparently being willing to move past this brutal assassination, David, I can understand the concern that she has, and a lot of people are reacting negatively to this.
Yeah, this doesn't look good for Joe Biden. Never mind Khashoggi, but also there's all the suggestions that's coming out now that even if Saudi Arabia were to turn on the spigots, as George W. Bush would say, and flood the markets with oil, it would take them so long to sort of ramp up that it really wouldn't impact gasoline prices at all. So, and by the way, there's no guarantee that the Saudis are going to do that. So if Joe Biden is going to try to help with energy, then this could be sort of a big fail because he's getting hammered over the human rights stuff. There is some reporting out there, though, John, that Saudi Arabia and Israel are on the verge of a historic peace deal. And there's some indications in the American-Israel, sort of circles that perhaps Biden is going to Saudi Arabia to sort of push this across the finish line. However, if he does not get a peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel, then and that doesn't happen, say, in the next 6 months, then this trip to Saudi Arabia, I think, will continue to haunt him and will perhaps even look even worse in terms of historical perspective.
Yeah, especially because to jump ahead to graphic 3, like he talked a really big game when it came to Saudi Arabia on the campaign trail. He either actually thought he would be tough on MBS, or he at least thought it was an easy thing to score some points on. He said in 2019 that he would make Saudi leaders, quote, pay the price for Khashoggi's murder and make them, in fact, the pariah that they are. There's no better way to make someone a pariah than to visit them on a trip. Biden also vowed to end the sale of material to the Saudis, where they're going in and murdering children and Yemen. And there have been some changes in terms of our willingness to assist them in the brutal massacres in Yemen. But this just doesn't look good. And it isn't just Khashoggi's widow who is criticizing him. Senator Tim Kaine said the crown prince's blood stain has not been cleansed. I get it that circumstances change, but what's the fundamental issue in the world right now? It's the authoritarians. And in fact, there are protests. You can see in the tweets that we'll put up, there are protests concerning this decision, including from Code Pink. So look, the murder of Jamal Khashoggi is not the only awful thing. And you could certainly make a case, like if you wanted to engage in this, drone strikes kill people and destroy them. And there are a lot of terrible things in the world. That is definitely true. Often people will deploy that argument, though, to say, well, what are you gonna do? I would argue we should expect better from our own government and from the Saudi government. And so far, I've seen nothing from the Saudis that implied that their moving on is about true reform. It seems to be they would just very much like to get more military assistance from the US, and they want to have economic ties with other countries while also being just as horrible to their people as ever before.
And if we expected more from our own government, I would have hoped for that Joe Biden would say, okay, there's nothing really that concrete that can come out of the Saudi visit because of oil prices, and certainly I'm getting hammered for human rights. So why not say to Saudi Arabia, look, you go ahead and make the peace deal with Israel first, and then I'll come and reward you and elevate your prestige by coming to Riyadh after you've done that. Why Joe Biden is sort of putting himself out there first and risking that, there still may not be a peace deal. I mean, that just seems puzzling to me because the United States doesn't need this visit of a US president to Saudi Arabia right now. It will not really do anything for the United States.
Well, yeah, it's not going to buy him any credit on the right or anything. Like his letter, like pushing domestic oil manufacturers to up their production. Fox is using that to attack him. Going to the Saudis, it's not like he can do anything he wants. They're not going to love him. So that's weird. And the hypothetical situation you sketched out, I think, makes a lot of sense. So much so that the fact that they're not doing that, does that lead us to believe that perhaps a potential peace deal isn't as close as people might have thought? Because it tying those things together sure seemed to make sense. I mean, if he's going with there's nothing being given in advance, certainly nothing that's been announced yet. I don't know. That looks really suspicious.
I'm with you. I mean, this whole thing is, again, it's just not a good look. And I think the criticism with Biden is sometimes Biden sort of over negotiates. He gets himself too involved in trying to find compromise. And I think this is one of these cases where maybe he's too involved in trying to get this peace deal together. And maybe he needs to sort of step back and say, I'm not part of this. You do this on your own. And once your own reputation has been improved, then the president of the United States will come and visit you.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.